Are you feeling stuck, lost, or confused about what to do next in your career? Then the Manifest Your Career podcast is just right for you. I'm your host, Dr. Norma Reyes, a career mindset coach. I help successful Latinas who are battling self-doubt, self-sabotage, and imposter syndrome. I teach my clients how to combine their intuition, skills, and knowledge so that they can manifest their dream career. It's time you start listening to your inner wisdom and guidance. Tune in each week to the Manifest Your Career podcast and learn how to align your mindset to your career goals. Keep listening, and together we'll manifest your dream career. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 59, and today I'll be talking a little bit about Moonology and how I became a Moonologer and why I became a Moonologer. So if you haven't heard about Moonology, what Moonology is, the short of it is that Moonology is working with the magic of the lunar cycles. And before I get into Moonology, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about how I got interested in it and why I wanted to become a Moonologer. So for some time now, I've been drawn to astrology. I always used to like to read my horoscope when I was young and just kind of learning about that, right? But most recently, like 2019-ish, I came across Moonology, which is a little bit different than astrology, but it still, uses astrology, but it focuses more on the moon, more on the new moon and the full moon, and how to use those energies to guide your life. So I could literally talk about this forever, but I'll give you guys a brief overview in a bit after I tell you guys a little bit more about my why. And I'll have episodes later about each of the moon phases, how to use the energies for a particular phase of the moon. But let's get started on why did I want to do this? Because I will be one of the first to tell you not to go chasing after any type of new certification or degree when you are feeling stuck or lost. But I decided to become a certified Moonologer because I felt like it was the right next move for me internally. So when you are looking to get a new degree or certification, you really want to ask yourself, what's your why behind it? It's not something you want to rush into, especially if you're not happy where you are. And maybe you're thinking, oh, if I get a new certification or if I get a new degree, that will be my saving grace, or that'll help me find a new job or land a new career path, right? Like when we are chasing after a thing to solve our problems, that's the wrong reason. But if you are looking to learn or grow, or it's always been something that you've been interested in, let's say you've been in your field for a long time and you've always had an interest in, let's say, getting a master's degree in public speaking or something like that, public health. And you just always wanted to have that degree, and you go after it because it's an internal desire versus an external reason. An external reason could be anything that isn't really like it's like trying to save you from where you are, right? And it's never going to save you. So same thing with this certification. I'd been following Yasmin Bolin. She's the creator of Moonology and also the creator of the Moonologer certification. So I've been following her for over a year now. I have a lot of her books, and the main ones are like the Moonology book, and then she has a Moonology diary. And yesterday I literally bought the pre-order of the 2023 diary. So if you're interested in getting started with Moonology, you can check her website out, check her out. She's pretty active on her Facebook page, and she hosts ceremonies and goes into all of that too. But I will also be hosting regular new moon and full moon ceremonies. So if you want to hear about those, make sure to join my email list so you can learn all about that. And then later, I plan on hosting a workshop that will dive deeper into Moonology and your career, so that if you're interested in that, make sure to join my email list so that you're the first to know all about them. So, for a while now, I've been incorporating astrology and chart readings into my sessions, but I felt like there was a little more that I could learn and better serve my clients. And so, for the past year, I've been enrolled in what's called this Mystic Business School that focuses on the lunar cycles, but it really is focused more on like kind of business oriented things, like how to know when to start a launch or advertise your business, and when not to have sales depending on where the moon is, and all of these different things. And so I have been doing that for a little bit over 6-7 months. I've truly enjoyed that, but I felt like there was still a little bit more, and especially I've been drawn to the Moonology cards. And so about 2 months ago, the Moonology certification popped up in my inbox, and I was like, oh, I need this. It was just like one of those instant yes, right? And so really listen to those instant yeses. Don't talk yourself out of them unless you know it's not financially the right time for you. But it doesn't even have to be something dealing with a certification or money. It could just be like you see a job posting and you're like, yes, but then you start to look at the job description and you talk yourself out of it. Like if you have an urge to do something, do it. I mean, if it's not going to harm, hurt, or cost anything, why not? But then we start to overthink things when our intuition strikes. It just comes out of nowhere. And a lot of times our ego gets scared and we begin to backpedal. And so I'm glad that I just went forward with it because, when it comes to certifications, I am a little like, not really sure, but I really wanted it just for my own personal inner confidence, right? So no certification makes you an expert, but it definitely can help you feel more confident in your skills and your abilities. And it definitely is doing that for me. So sometimes, like I said, we just need a certification to help us feel better, but it's important to know that, it doesn't give you the skills. Practice does that. Just like your degree doesn't give you all of the skills you need in the workplace, practice does, right? Getting your first job does. So, we all feel insecure at first, but know that you'll get the hang of it. And I've really been working to get the hang of it. And like I said, I've kind of been doing it a little bit without the certification, but now since having it, I have been practicing with my family and friends. They probably are tired of me and all of the different things of like, hey, let me pull a card out for you. But after getting this certification, I've officially now been offering Moonology readings. If you're interested in that, go to my website, get on my emails, send me a DM on Instagram at Manifest Your Career, and I can tell you how you can purchase one of those. But I'll be honest, like the thought of doing them scares me, not because, like anything bad's going to happen or that it's wrong, but because it's new, right? It's something that's new to me and a new offering. But the only way to overcome this new challenge and feeling is by doing it. And I really wanted the certification so that I can get myself out there and provide this service to my community, to you guys, my clients, and really, really work on combining the logical, practical steps and the mystic into my coaching, right? I talk about combining the intuition with the logic, and I've been doing that, but I feel like there was more. I wanted to push a little bit more of the mystic in it. Because really, it's really, really easy to kind of just stay in the logical in coaching, because the mystical can be more of a feeling, more of intuition. And then there's the other person, the other side of it, that has to receive the information that you're giving them. And sometimes the client may not be as receptive to it. They may shut down with some of that information. So remember that whenever you're going for a reading, make sure that you are open to whatever comes through. Sometimes it may not be the message that you want to hear. I know that I'll ask a question to the tarot cards and it'll be like, nope. And then it's like, okay, next card, no, and then at that point, right, like, okay, step away, reflect. Why are you refusing the no, right? Why are you resistant? So now that I've explained a little bit of why I wanted to get the certification, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about moonology, the lunar cycles, and the kind of the overall gist of it, how it works. But this will be a brief, and I mean brief overview because there's so much to it. There's so many layers, and I will be doing episodes to kind of help break that up for you guys on my understanding of how moonology works and what I want to share with it and how do I want to combine it with career planning. Now to the moon phases and a little bit of moonology and combining all of that. So there is 8 moon phases, and I will be talking to you guys about 4 of them. When I break it down to episodes, I might go into a little bit of all 8, but really the bigger focus is more the 4. So there's the new moon, that's the first phase. And then there's the first quarter moon, that's the third one. Then there's the full moon, and that's the 5th moon phase. And then there's the quarter moon, that's the 7th. And then there's the dark moon, which is not really considered a moon phase. It is moon phase, but it's like right before the new moon. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea. If you think of the new moon, you can't really actually see the new moon. It's not visible by us because the earth is blocking the sun from hitting the moon. And so it's very faintly visible. If you see it, you may see it like really light moon. So if you ever see that, or you've seen that in the past and you were like, oh, the moon doesn't look as bright, and that's part of it. Usually you could see it like in the daytime hours. And so during this new moon phase, you may have heard something called new moon wishes. And I just had my first official new moon wishes ceremony last Friday. And so in this, when you do a new moon wishes, the wishes to me is like a misnomer. For some people, wishes means the same as intentions or goals. But when I hear wishes, I think of like grandiose pipe dreams, things that you don't think would ever happen, right? So in changing new moon to new moon intentions or new moon goals, and it's for the next 28 days. So during this time, it's very similar to like when you plant a seed, you plant it in the ground and it's dark, right? It doesn't you can't actually see the seed, and you can't actually, the seed itself can't be seen from above the ground. So as the energy grows from the new moon phase into waxing, and then first quarter moon, and then waxing gibbous, before it hits a full moon, the energy is growing, and this is when it is kind of looking like more like a backwards C. So that's how you know which way the moon is going. So when it looks like a backwards C, the moon is going towards the full moon, so the energy is growing bigger. And so between the new moon and the first quarter moon, it's kind of, you put down the seeds, you start to kind of brainstorm, allow yourself to dream. Once you get to the first quarter moon, which is about 7 days after the new moon, 7 to 10 days, that is really the time you need to start getting going, right? Like if you set a goal out from the beginning of the month to land an interview within 28 days, then at the first quarter moon, then that's when you probably want to start applying to these jobs. So think of it as that energy, right? You set down your goal, I want to have an interview within the next 28 days. And then from day 1 to day 7, 8, you really just kind of thinking of like, where do I want to go, right? Like the thinking phase. And then at the first quarter moon, it's when you really want to start taking action. The moon's energy has been building up, so you have the moon's energy behind you, right? It's taking action. So from the first quarter moon up to the full moon, which is another 7 to 10 days, you really start taking actionable steps, which is actually applying to jobs, maybe even networking with people. And then there's the full moon phase. That is a point where you've reached the top of that energy, right? The energy of doing. After the full moon, it is the time to not do as much and allow your seeds to start sprouting and growing on their own. Or at times you just have to reflect back and look, oh, this actually isn't working. What was my strategy here? Right? So during the full moon energy, you do a full moon release. This can be a release of like, okay, your expectations. This could be a release of, I'm not going to overthink this anymore. Because a lot of times when we're doing a job search, it's a go, go, go. There's never a pause or a stop to relax. But in reality, if we're using the moon's energy, then we're not always actively working. We are taking rest within the 28 days. So at the full moon, it's a time for release. It's also a time for forgiveness, perhaps forgiveness for anything in the past that has happened, anything that has happened in the past 2 weeks. Maybe there's some things that you didn't like in regards to your goal or anything else, and you just got to start releasing all of that. So after the full moon, there isn't going to be a lot of go, go, go. There's going to be a lot more reflection. You may see some of your goal seeds, right? The seeds that you planted sprouting some. Perhaps 15 to 21 days after the new moon, you start getting those phone calls for those interviews. Or you may not, right? Like this is not some magic spell that means that it will exactly happen. It may just mean that either a couple of different things. Maybe you didn't do a really good job search. Maybe the jobs that you applied to weren't for you. Or on the flip side, maybe they are, and you are getting those calls back. But what's important here during the third quarter moon, and this is when the moon looks like the opposite shape, right? It looks more like a C, like half a C. And so it's going to continue to shrink until it goes back to being a dark moon and then a new moon. And so during that time, energy is decreasing, right? It's a good time to reflect back on what you were doing. Maybe your goal was to get an interview within 28 days, and turns out like you didn't even apply to a single job. Like reflect back what happened, right? That's most key here. And how you're using this energy, right? It's like its own kind of habit tracker for yourself, your goal tracker to keep you going, but also allowing that room, that space for reflection, rest, forgiveness, release. Something that all of us don't do enough, because no one has ever taught us this. That's one thing you need to remember. No one has taught you that it's okay to rest and relax, especially if you came from a home with immigrant parents or your grandparents were immigrants or whatever the case may be, working class. You may not feel that it's okay to rest. Rest is not something that has been allowed, right? Or that is okay. Rest means that you're not doing what you need to do. Even if you didn't come from any of those backgrounds, you hear it in the media, you hear it in TV all the time. Idle hands are the something of the devil. I can't remember what it actually says, but either way, right? Like idle hands are a bad thing. Idle hands, yes, maybe if they're going to do doing stuff. That reminds me of that movie, Idle Hands, something like that. Anyway, if you are actually taking this time to reflect and restore yourself, and I'm not saying that you just stop doing life, but in these particular goals, right? So if you are getting interviews, how is that making you feel, right? Is this actually feeling like the right place for you? Same thing on the other side. If you didn't get interviews, what happened? What could you have done differently? What are you doing that may not be working? Is it an industry? Is it because you weren't really passionate about the jobs that you applied to? Was it because you applied to too many jobs and you're just doing it to do it? All of these different things that you can stop and reflect on. Now, this is one example of a type of goal that you could be setting. You could set any type of goal for yourself, any type of intention for the next 28 days. And when you use the moon's energy, it reminds you when you should be taking action, when you should be taking a pause, when you should be reflecting, right? And then and letting go. Letting go. A lot of times we don't know how to let go. We set a goal and we like work ourselves to death until we reach that goal. And then we reach the goal and we're like, oh my God, this was like the worst thing ever. Why did I even set this as the goal? Because you never allowed yourself to rest, relax, and really see if it was something you wanted to do midway through, right? There's this whole thinking that once you set a goal, that's it. Like you have to keep going and moving forward. No, if something's no longer enjoyable to you, let's say, for example, right, back to the, I'm going to apply to jobs because I want to get an interview in the next 28 days. Let's say after the 10 days after the new moon and you're getting up to the full moon, you're starting to feel anxiety and you're not really sure that you really want to make a job move after all. And not an anxiety of like your fear, ego, but like something more inside of you, like inner wisdom that tells you, let's take a pause on this. Maybe this isn't the actual direction I need to go. But what happens is that we start to feel guilty that we set a goal and we tell ourselves, no, let's do it, right? So then you have that yucky energy on you and you're applying to these jobs. And then maybe you do get an interview and you get an interview with the yucky company because you had yucky energy. And then you're like, oh my God, like this is just terrible. I hate this. I'm not ready for a career move. Or you don't get any interviews and you begin to feel even worse. Like, oh my gosh, like I knew it. Like I knew I wasn't going to get any interviews. I just wasted all of my time. If you don't pause to reflect, if you don't follow your intuition and your energy appropriately, it's not going to be fruitful in the way that you would like. So that's just some brief ways on how to use Moonology. There's so many more layers, right? It depends what zodiac sign the new moon is. What house is it in your chart, right? Everybody's chart is going to be different. So this past new moon was in Leo, and for me, it's in my 3rd house. I have a client who her Leo is in her 5th house. And, I talked to her a little bit about that and how she could use that energy, but it's going to be a little bit different than mine. Like for hers is more like starting a creative project, while mine will be more about public speaking and being creative in my public speaking. So everyone's is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be in different houses, but don't get too overwhelmed on those details, right? It's layers. So if you're new to this whole Moonology thing, start off with the basics of setting intentions or goals during the new moon, doing a release and reflection during the full moon, and really resting on your goals for the rest of the time if needed, right? Each of the goals is going to be a little bit different. Of course, when applying to a job, I never recommend doing it more than 2 weeks at a time. It's not going to be fruitful. Your energy will be depleted. It's best that you take a break. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off if you need to. I would say even less than that, but 1 week on and then 3 weeks of rest and reflection. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. Like I said, I will be talking more about Moonology on the podcast. And if you have any direct questions for me, feel free to send me a DM at Manifest Your Career on Instagram. And don't forget to join my email list so that you can be the first to know about any upcoming Moonology workshops that I have. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Manifest Your Career podcast with me, your host, Dr. Norma Reyes, a career and mindset coach. Learn more today on manifestyourcareer.com.